Hello everyone and welcome back to Craft Hour. If you haven't visited us before, my name is Allie and I'm an educator at the Boys and Girls Club of Fitchburg at Leominster. And today we're going to be making Puffy Paint and Sidewalk Chalk. So two fun crafts that you can either do outside or inside. It is starting to get nicer outside, so I figured I could do a craft and give you an activity to do outside to take a break from all that schoolwork. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to start with the sidewalk chalk and then we'll move on to puffy paint. So I'm going to show you all of the things that you're going to need for each recipe and then we'll get started. Alright, so let's get into the ingredients, the things you're going to need to make each of these projects. So the first one we're going to start with is our sidewalk chalk. So for sidewalk chalk, you need 3 ingredients and you also need a mold of some sort to put your liquid chalk in so that it dries in a shape. So if you don't have a mold like this, what you can use is a toilet paper roll. So if you take a toilet paper roll and you place either some aluminum foil or some plastic wrap on the bottom and then fill the toilet paper roll, it'll come out like basically a piece of chalk. You can cut it and make it a little smaller if you want. But if you don't have a mold, that's a way to get the sidewalk chalk to go into a certain shape. So what we're going to need is our molds, or if you want to build your own mold, that works too. You're also going to need plaster of Paris. So this is something that you can get at any home improvement store, like Home Depot. And then you're also going to need a cup of water, so a cup of plaster of Paris, a cup of water, and then also powdered paint. So I have some powdered paint here. I believe this you can get at Walmart or any real craft store as well. So we have powdered paint, plaster of Paris, and water. And those are the 3 things that you're going to need to make your own sidewalk chalk. You want to make sure that this is washable, just because you don't want the sidewalk chalk to stain your sidewalk. You want it to be able to wash away in the rain. So washable paint is definitely a must. You do not want to use food coloring or permanent paint like acrylic paint. You don't want to use any of that. You want to make sure you use powdered paint that's washable. Okay, so I'm going to grab the water for our sidewalk chalk and then we're going to start by mixing the plaster of Paris and the water together. And then we'll add our color and add it into our mold. So the main thing you want to remember when you're doing your sidewalk chalk is once you put plaster of Paris in something, you're not going to be able to put it down the sink because this will harden. So you want to make sure that you grab a cup that you can just throw away in the end. So that's an important step. You want to make sure you grab something that you don't need to use again, because it's going to be really hard to wash out and you really are not supposed to put anything that's left over down the drain. So we're going to start with a cup of plaster of Paris. Hopefully we can get this container open. There we go. So 1 cup. Let's see if we can do this without making a mess. There we go. Woo! Alright, so a cup of plaster of Paris. And this is a good thing if it's nice outside, if you want to do this outside so you don't get it all over your table. That's definitely recommended if you don't want to clean up a mess, to just do this recipe outside. But we have our cup of plaster of Paris. And now we need a cup of water. And there we go. Try to do this without spilling. Perfect. And now I'm going to go grab a popsicle stick to stir it. Again, you want to make sure that you're using things that you can throw away in the end. So I'm going to go grab a stir stick and I'll be right back. So I am back and we are stirring with a popsicle stick because again you really want to make sure that you don't use anything that you want to reuse, just because it's going to possibly be washed and go down the drain, unless you want to try and hose it off outside with a garden hose. But then again, you're really not going to eat out of it either. Alright, so I've stirred it all together, and basically from our directions here, you want to make sure that you mix it well, and then we're going to add in the paint. So I'm going to stick my stirrer over here, and again, you can use pretty much any color you'd like. I'm going to use green because I have tree molds. So again, you just need to add a little bit at a time and stir to get the color that you'd like. So we're just going to keep adding a little bit at a time until we get the right green color that we like. So right now we're sitting at a pretty light green, so I'm going to add in some more. And gotta make sure that you get all of the paint blobs. So I've got a really big paint blob here I'm going to try and break up. You really want this to be a smooth consistency so that when it dries you don't get a lot of cracks. Okay, here we go. Starting to get a nice green color here. So remember, you want yours to be super pigmented so that when you go to use it, you're going to be able to actually see it on the sidewalk. So even if it looks really dark, once you draw with it, it's going to come out a little lighter. So don't be afraid to make it a darker color, because pastels usually are really hard to see on the sidewalk. But it's up to you what color you'd like to do. Alright, we'll add a little bit more so you can get it a little darker. And then we will let this sit. You want to let it stand for just a few minutes, just to let everything get incorporated. You don't want to wait too long, or you'll start to get a hardened substance at the bottom, and that's the plaster of Paris. So we're just going to mix everything together here, and we're going to let it stand for just a few minutes. You can set a timer so you don't forget. But with this sidewalk paint, you can always dump it into smaller cups too if you want to make a bunch of different colors. It's up to you what kind of paint you have, and remember, you want to use washable paint so it washes away in the rain. But after we let this sit, we're going to pour it in the molds over here, and then what you're going to want to do is let it dry completely. So this takes anywhere from 2 days to possibly a week, depending on how big your molds are, depending on how deep they are. Like the trees right here, probably going to take at least 2 days to dry, and then when you pop them out, you're going to want to give it another 24 hours to completely dry, and then you'll be able to use it outside. So this will be a great thing to use on the weekend when you have it all set. But again, if you use smaller molds, they should dry quicker, but you do have the tendency of cracking with smaller molds, so just be careful. You want to make sure that you fill them completely. And you're also going to want to make sure that you're using molds that you can just pop them out in the end. Plastic ones like this are really cute, but I find that sometimes they get stuck in here, whereas the silicone molds, it's a little easier to just pop them out in the end. But it's whatever you have, and again, the toilet paper roll is a great way to have the little sidewalk chalk that's actually in the shape of actual chalk. But if you have silicone molds, this is a great one because they just pop right out. Alright, so what we're going to do is we are going to now pour this in our molds. So just be super careful, and you want to make sure that you fill them all the way up to the top. So this amount of mixture is going to make just about all of these molds. This one's going to be a little smaller. so it'll probably dry a little quicker than the rest of them. But the nice thing about this is you can just toss your container after you're done. And again, these have to sit until they're completely dry. And I actually have some that are dry to show you. So this is what it'll look like in the end. This one, I believe, took about 2 to 3 days to actually dry completely, and then pop them out, wait another 24 hours, and they're ready to use. So in the end, I will show you how this looks on the sidewalk. Alright, so as you can see, I'm going to test out the sidewalk chalk. I already made a line here. It is really sunny outside, so it might be a little hard to see. But as you can see, it draws on the sidewalk. So once you are done, my dog's getting a little excited because I'm outside. But as you can see, you can draw on the sidewalk. So now that we've made our sidewalk chalk and that's sitting, and again, gotta give it at least 2 days to see if it starts to dry. But again, make sure that you keep checking on it, and once it's all dry, you can pop it out, wait another 24 hours, and use your sidewalk chalk. So what we're going to do now is make our puffy paint. So what you're going to need for your puffy paint, I have all the ingredients on the table. You're going to need salt. You're going to need self-rising flour. If you don't have self-rising flour, I'll tell you in a minute how to make your own. And then you're also going to need food coloring. So for this one, it's okay to use food coloring because it's paint. So you're painting on a piece of paper and you're not expecting it to come off. So it's okay to use, you can either use food coloring, food dye, food gel, any of them work. And then you're also going to need either some heavy cardstock or a piece of cardboard. You have to be careful with the cardboard though, because some of them can go in the microwave and some of them cannot. So it's only for 30 seconds, so just make sure you check on it and you stand by the microwave. But usually thin cardboard like this should be perfectly fine. And if you're worried, you can always use cardstock. But what we're going to do is we're going to mix the flour and the salt together, and then we're going to add in our food coloring, whatever colors you'd like. And with this, again, I recommend just using plastic or paper cups so you can just toss them out in the end. Just because, again, food dye does stain for a little bit, so if you don't want it going down your sink, that's understandable. So what we're going to be doing is, I'm going to make 3 colors today. And to stir, you can either use a spoon, a plastic spoon, or Q-tips work really well for paintbrushes in this instance. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of self-rising flour in each of these cups. If you do not have self-rising flour, what you can do is you can use 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And all that mixed together will make the self-rising flour that you need for this project. But I have self-rising flour here, so I'm just going to put 1 tablespoon of self-rising flour in each cup. So you're basically going to need a tablespoon for each color that you'd like to do. You may need a little more depending on how many people are going to do this project. So I have a tablespoon in each cup, and then what I'm going to do is have a tablespoon of salt. So we're going to push this aside, and we're going to have a tablespoon of salt in each cup. Maybe. Sometimes it gets stuck a little bit. And you don't need this canning or pickling salt. You really just need any type of salt. Table salt works. So trying to get it out. Ooh, trying to get it out of the container here. And again, these projects are great outside projects. So if you do spill or make a mess, it's all outside. So there's 1 tablespoon. Ooh. For some reason, this does not want to come out today. Try opening up a little bit. There we go. 2 tablespoons. tablespoons. So each one gets a tablespoon. So we have a tablespoon of self-rising flour, a tablespoon of salt. And I'm just going to use my Q-tip here to mix them together. So we're incorporating everything. So just mixing them together. And then what we're going to do is add in a little bit of water. So you want to add in a little bit of water at a time. You want to start with 1/4 of a teaspoon of water. So just a little bit. You do not want it to be too watery. So we're going to start with just a little bit of water and mix these together. And you're looking for the consistency of stirred yogurt. So if you ever have a yogurt and you open it, it's a little watery. Once you stir it, it looks pretty perfect. It should be thick, but it should also not have any lumps in it. So again, just add water a little bit at a time. Every cup will be a little different. So don't pour the whole thing in it at once. You're going to want to just add in a little and stir. Make sure you stir it all in before you add in any more water. So just adding in a little at a time. I think we're getting there. So just keep stirring, and eventually you will get something that looks like stirred yogurt. Is the best way I think I can describe it. And I know this seems a little time consuming, why not just pour the whole thing in? But if it gets too watery, the puffy paint will not work. So it's good to have patience now so that you don't have to redo the project when it doesn't work. Alright, so we're almost there. Probably a couple more teaspoons, or 1/2 teaspoon. So just stirring it in, mixing it all together. Let's see if I can get one the right consistency so that I can show you. So still a little lumpy, maybe a couple more here. Oh, I think this might be perfect. But again, every cup will be different, so I believe that was about, if you were counting, that was probably about 7 or 8, possibly 9 1/2 teaspoons. Alright, so I think this is pretty perfect. So you can see there are a few little lumps in there, but stirring it a little more will get most of them out. And again, you might have to pick up another Q-tip or get a little spoon to get it a little more stirred in there. Mine's breaking a little bit. But these are great little paint brushes if you don't want to go out and buy little paint brushes. Alright, so then we can add in our food coloring. Again, you only need 1 or 2 drops. So let's start with green. 1, 2. And we'll stir this in. Thinking I definitely need another Q-tip here. There we go. Put this over here. And we'll stir this in. So we have green here, and then I'll probably make a yellow and maybe some blue. So I'm going to now add in a little bit more water to each of these, stir it all in, and see if we have the right consistency here. Alright. So this one's looking a lot like our first one, our green container here. Again, just gotta get out all the lumps. And that's just the flour and the salt that's just kind of clumping together. So you just got to stir it out. But again, don't add too much water. All right, we'll make this one blue. 1, 2. Let's stir this in. There you go. And then we'll do our last one here. And we'll make this one yellow. For the yellow, you may have to add in more than 2 drops depending on what shade of yellow you'd like. But that all depends on what you'd like to do and what picture you're trying to make. So we'll add in our yellow here. 1, 2. Let's start with 2. See how that goes. Stir it in. Perfect. All right, so we have our green, our yellow, and our blue. So I will do one on each just to show you how they look. I'm going to start with the cardboard. So we'll just make a nice spring day out here. And we're going to put in some grass. And again, don't be afraid to put a ton of paint on there, because the more paint you put on your either cardboard or cardstock, the better you're going to have it puff up in the microwave. So make sure that you put on quite a bit. Put the grass in here. And again, if you want to use an actual paintbrush, that works too. Just make sure you rinse it out really well at the end when you're done. Or some people put this in squeeze bottles. You can do that too. It's a little easier if you have younger siblings. All right, so there's our grass. We'll add in a little cloud at the top, so that puffs up. Clouds are fun with puffy paint. So we'll just swirl our cloud over here. We'll add in another cloud over here. And again, it's a bit of a thicker paint, so just make sure you take your time. But you can glob it on there if you'd like. And we'll just put a little sun in the corner here. Almost done. There we go. And now what we're going to do is, now that our picture is done, we're going to stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds. And then make sure you're really careful when you take it out, because it might be hot. But then your paint should start to puff up in the microwave, so you can watch it. And then when you take it out, it should be all set. So we're over at the microwave, putting it in for 30 seconds, and we'll take it out and see what it looks like. Here is the finished product. As you can see, the paint has puffed up, so you can touch it, it's puffy. And again, the more paint that you put on there, the puffier it's gonna get. So you can add a lot of different paints and colors, but here's the end product. And here is the cardstock. Again, I used the same puffy paint, stick in the microwave for 30 seconds, and you have puffy paint. Alright, so today we have made sidewalk chalk and puffy paint art. So you can, again, use cardboard or you can use the cardstock. Again, just be careful in the microwave, it comes out hot, but it's only in there for 30 seconds and it puffs up pretty nicely. So thank you for joining me for Craft Hour. I'll make sure to put all of the recipes at the end of this slide so you can copy them down. They're super easy, and I will say they're a little messy, so if you want to do the mixing and stuff outside, that's a great option, especially since it's so nice outside this week. But keep in mind that you may get a little mess if you're going to do it inside. But if you use plastic containers or paper cups, that's a great way to just kind of toss everything at the end so you don't have to worry about it. So thank you for joining me. Again, comment down below and make sure you show me pictures of your end projects. I'd love to see all of the chalk and puffy paint art in the comment section. Also comment below for ideas for the next craft hour. What crafts would you like to see in the next video? And also comment down below with which one was your favorite. Did you like Sidewalk Chalk or Puffy Paint better? So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Bye, everybody.